Hello, ghouls and ghosties. It already feels like it's been forever since I've said that. But hello, ghouls and ghosties. How have you been? How has your post-spooky season, post-Halloween time been? How has November been treating you? Have you been sad like me? Have you been longing for spooky season like me? I've actually been, since I've had to obviously pick up all my Halloween stuff and put it away, which is, oh my gosh, such a huge project. It took me a week and a half to get all my Halloween away. Actually, it took 2 weeks if you count outside. The 12-footers took me a while. That is such a depressing and very, very time-consuming project. But as I have been doing that, I've kind of been reorganizing our house. I've been really cleaning, kind of deep cleaning in cupboards that no one really ever goes in, our linens closets, that type of stuff. And I really cleaned up kind of how I store my Halloween stuff, kind of figured out a new way of storing it in our crawl space. Though I've been sad and depressed and longing for spooky season, it has felt good to kind of find my bearings, I guess, with all my stuff, because as you guys know, I have a lot of stuff. Anyways, that is not what we're here to talk about. I just wanted to catch up with you guys because, of course, I have very much missed my ghouls and my ghosties. So today, it's a witchy Wednesday. I didn't wear the hat just because all my witches' hats are in a box right now, but it is kind of a witchy Wednesday because we're going to be doing some cauldron cooking today. I'm not exactly sure how long this video is going to be. It might not be crazy long because all we're doing is making this soup together. I don't think I've ever done a completely standalone cauldron cooking video, so I just don't know what they look like. But I really, really wanted to get this recipe to you guys, and I really wanted to conjure up a Poultry-geist with you because this is a really, really fun, delicious, and useful recipe for if you have leftover Thanksgiving items and foods, specifically turkey, that you don't really know what to do with. If you've got the leftover seasonings like the sage, the thyme, the rosemary, and all that, if you've got the leftover turkey, if you've got a little wild rice on hand, this is the perfect recipe. So I've made this one a handful of times, and it is mind-blowingly delicious. I have never, and this is a sin as a Minnesotan, but I have never been a huge chicken wild rice soup fan. I just feel a lot of times it's really bland. I know everyone has their own recipes. Some are better, some are worse, some are thicker, some are thinner, but I've never met one that I really liked too much, especially one that I really liked. Some have maybe been okay, but none have been something I would get seconds on. But this has converted me. This soup is so good. Truly, truly magic from a cauldron. It is delicious. I am going to, as we start here, once we get into the kitchen, I'm going to show you guys the ingredients that you'll need, and I will give you measurements as we talk about the actual ingredients. I have pre-chopped up some items just to make this smoother and easier on everyone, and we are going to just basically be taking a look at the cauldron and making it together. It's not much for crazy wild ingredients you have to go out and get, as long as, I said, you have a lot of the Thanksgiving seasonings, the classics, and you have turkey, and maybe go out and get some wild rice and half or heavy cream. That's kind of all there is that's wild and crazy. Otherwise, it's some pretty standard stuff. So I'm super excited to get into this recipe with you guys. This is perfect timing since it is the day before Thanksgiving. So once Thanksgiving's over, let me know if you guys do give this soup a try, or if at any other time you do. If you are a Thanksgiving host like Ryan and I hope you are ready. It is crunch time, and it is time to get that house cleaned and get the dishes prepped and get things moving. I am kind of a little stressed, but honestly, I love hosting Thanksgiving. I love cooking. It is truly emotional therapy for me. It is the best part of my day is cooking. Instead of talking about cooking, let's get cooking and let's get into the kitchen and conjure up a Poultry-geist wild rice. We are at the oven, so before we get into our actual cooking in the cauldron, let's go over the ingredients and the measurements you will need of each items. So of course you're gonna need turkey. Now this could be your shredded leftover turkey, or it can be some ground turkey if you are making this, say, not around Thanksgiving. I am making this before Thanksgiving, so I don't have leftovers yet. So I'm just using a pound of ground turkey. But if you were going to use leftovers, you will need about 2 cups of shredded leftover turkey. You're also going to need 2 tablespoons of butter, 1 medium yellow onion diced up. This one is actually an onion and a half, just because I had a leftover one that I did really want to use. And as you guys know, if you've watched some of my past Cauldron cookings, I'm a huge onion fan, so a little extra onion is not a big deal for me, but you would want 1 medium dice. You would also want to dice up 2 large carrots, like the type that you peel and skin before eating them. I had some carrot chips, and so 2 regular sized, like long carrots are equivalent to about 1 1/4 cups or about 1.5 cups of chopped up carrots of any other form. So that is what I'm doing. These were originally carrot chips. We will also be using 2 celery stalks diced up. So here are my 2 celery stalks pre-diced. 2 cloves of minced garlic. I, as you guys know, like to use the pre-minced stuff. It's just so much easier. So for me, it'll be about 2 teaspoons of this. A teaspoon of sage. Of course, you can use fresh sage if you like, but I am using dry pantry sage. 1/2 teaspoon of thyme. Again, you can use fresh if you'd like. 1/2 teaspoon of rosemary. 6 cups of chicken broth. 1 cup of wild rice, which you will want to rinse before, by the way. 1 cup of half and half. You could use heavy cream if you wanted a little heavier. You could use whole milk, but I use half and half. 1/3 cup of flour. And then you will want some salt and pepper just for dashes sporadically and for taste. I didn't take those out yet, but I think you all know what salt and pepper are. So let's get going in the cauldron. We will start by, of course, starting our oven, and we will be melting butter over a medium heat, and then we will be adding in the turkey. Obviously, if you're using the leftover turkey, this is not a step you have to do. We need to cook and brown the ground turkey if that is what you're using like me. So first, I will plop in my butter. I'm gonna wait for that to melt, and then we will add in my ground turkey. Alright, it looks like my butter is basically fully melted, so I'm going to add in my turkey now. By the way, I will let you know when you would add leftover turkey if that was what you're using. That'll be a couple steps away. It would not be at the same time as this turkey. This is looking pretty browned and basically fully cooked. So now we're going to add our onion, carrot, and celery. I am kind of gonna make a space in the middle between all of my turkey just for this to kind of fall into, though we will be mixing it, so it doesn't really matter. Celery. We're gonna want to get this mixed in, and this is gonna cook for about, I don't know, like 5 to 7 minutes, I would say. Between 5 and 10. You really want the vegetables to start to get a bit more tender. Of course, they are quite firm right now, but you want them to soften up quite a bit. So this is gonna keep it a medium heat for another 5 to 10 minutes. Mine are fairly tender and fairly well cooked. I can really smell them, and usually when they become really fragrant, that's a good sign. So I am going to now add the garlic, the sage, the thyme, and the rosemary. So all of the different spices and seasonings. First up is the 2 teaspoons of minced garlic for me, or else it would be 2 cloves. Then we need a 1/2 teaspoon of thyme. There is that. We will need a 1/2 teaspoon of rosemary. And we will need a teaspoon of sage. So I'm going to do 2 halves. This is what's really gonna bring out, I feel, the stuffing flavor. Sage just like instantly makes me think everything tastes like stuffing. Like whenever there's those potato chips that are like stuffing flavored, I think Lay's and stuff has made them. The sage is totally, I think, what delivers that. When you can start to smell the seasonings we just added in, that's kind of your sign to move on to the next step. So this is probably only about like 30 seconds to a minute. You really just kind of want to mix it in. Yeah, because I can already smell all that. Next up, we will be adding our 1/3 cup of flour, and this is really going to help thicken this up once we're adding in the broth and everything. So you really just want to coat kind of everything in here in the flour. Obviously, there's not a ton of liquid left in here. A lot of the butter has been absorbed by the meat. Still, we would not be adding in leftover turkey. That is still coming at a later date. That is pretty thick and coated. Now we will be slowly stirring in the chicken broth. And again, this is 6 cups. So let me measure mine out. Here are 4 cups. Whoop. Before I add the last 2, I'm kind of gonna get this well stirred. And right now is when you really want to make sure you also scrape everything off the walls and off the bottom, because we're actually going to be adding in the wild rice and letting this sit for quite a while. So if there's a bunch of junk stuck on the bottom, it either won't cook the stuff in the liquid as well, or it might burn and become really stuck. So try to kind of scrape everything off right now. Right, I'm gonna add my last 2 cups. I knew that these larger boxes of broth were 6 cups, but I just didn't trust myself, and I didn't take the time to look up the ounce conversion. So I really didn't need a measuring cup. Another stir. Now, we want to add our 1 cup of wild rice, bring this to a simmer, and cover it. There are not many cauldron recipes I do actually that involve covering, but we need this to be sitting there covered for about 40 to 45 minutes. And you will be stepping back every once in a while to stir it up, just again so things don't stick to the bottom and burn, and also just to keep the flavors kind of moving. I'm gonna add my rice, and this is in a strainer now because like I said, you really should rinse it before you put it in. Another stir. And once I see this simmering, I'll probably, since mine is a gas stove, I will probably move mine a little closer to medium-low and then leave it covered. I'm gonna off camera wait for this to start simmering, and then we will leave it covered for 40 to 45 minutes, and we will continue with our couple of final steps once that is done. Alrighty, ghouls and ghosties, are we ready to smell this turkey? Of course, I have been opening this and stirring it a couple times, so the smell is already wafting throughout the house, and it smells so good. Also, even putting mine down to medium-low, it's still bubbled quite a bit in true cauldron fashion. So, if you're using leftover turkey, add it now. I'm sorry, when my tripod is this high up, it gets really wobbly and it moves really easy. So if that moved at all, I do apologize. You could have probably taken the lid off maybe a good 5 minutes early and added it in, but it is okay either way. You want to basically just reheat it. Since it's fully cooked and everything, you don't need to worry about that, but you want it to heat up, maybe absorb a little bit of flavor. You just didn't want to leave it in the whole time because that would be totally overcooking it. Once you do that, we will be adding our half and half or heavy cream or whole milk or dairy-free option, whichever you choose to use. This we will then just bring back to a simmer, and actually that's basically it. You'll add salt and pepper to taste, and that's about it. It's not really that difficult. It just takes a little bit of time because of the raw, I guess, wild rice, or the pantry wild rice. But overall, it's quite easy. It creates like a pretty like middle of the ground soup. It's decently thick. It's not as heavy as obviously like a chili, so it's, in my opinion, exactly how a wild rice soup should be. Now, I think I have said this before, but I am actually not a huge traditional wild rice soup person, but this freaking recipe totally has converted me. Like, The last time I made this, it took me like 2 days to eat all of this on my own. Like, I love the flavors with all of the seasonings and herbs that went into this. That kind of like stuffing meets turkey meets wild rice soup. Oh my gosh, it's just perfect. All the vegetables that I really like in here, it is so good. So I'm gonna bring mine back to a simmer just so I know that the half and half is fully heated through. Then I'm gonna do a little bit of magic with some salt and pepper, see how it tastes, and we're basically good to go at that point. This was our dinner that night. We had it with some homemade garlic sourdough bread. Let me know if you try this recipe, ghouls and ghosties, and I'll see you very soon for some ooky spooky kooky creepy Christmas decorating.